When I first met Daniel, he was everything I thought I wanted: charming, confident, and endlessly attentive. I was 34, running my interior design studio from the ground up, proud of the life I had built alone. He seemed to admire that, or at least pretend to. He said all the right things: how my ambition inspired him, how together we could achieve anything, how he would always protect me. I believed him. At first, life with him felt like a dream. He helped me organize clients, proofread contracts, and even manage small business tasks when I was too busy to notice. He called it support, but I felt loved. Every success I achieved was shared, or so I thought, but little cracks started to show. It began with subtle control disguised as concern. He insisted on overseeing my finances, suggesting safer investments, and questioning my decisions. He began taking calls behind closed doors, returning with a new perfume clinging to his coat. When I asked about it, he laughed, saying I was paranoid. I wanted to believe him. The first real shock came late one night. I was folding laundry when I heard him on the balcony speaking softly. "Once it's all under my name, she won't have a choice." The words froze me. My stomach twisted. The man I trusted most had been planning to take everything from me. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream or cry. Instead, I started paying attention. I checked records, contracts, and emails. I noticed transfers to accounts I didn't recognize and shell companies with his initials. I cataloged every suspicious move, every lie he had whispered so casually over the years. For the first time, I saw the truth clearly. Daniel had been deceiving me all along. But instead of fear, I felt a cold determination settle over me. I would not be blindsided. I would not be powerless. The love I had once given freely had taught me one thing: trust is precious, but preparation is survival. By the time he handed me divorce papers demanding half my fortune, I wasn't shocked. I was ready. His arrogance had blinded him to one crucial fact. I knew his every move, and now it was time for him to face the consequences. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, a scent that carried the weight of decisions and consequences. I sat at the plaintiff's table, hands folded, heart steady, while Daniel entered with the confident stride of a man who believed he already owned victory. He wore his usual tailored suit, the one that had once made him seem untouchable, his smile practiced and cold. His lawyer began with rehearsed charm, painting him as the devoted husband who had sacrificed his career to support mine. "Your Honor," he said, "my client contributed tirelessly to Mrs. Marquez's success. These assets are the product of mutual effort and shared vision." Daniel nodded, eyes fixed on me, smug as if my silence was his proof of superiority. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I let him perform. Let him think he had won. What he didn't know was that months of quiet preparation had placed the power firmly in my hands. My lawyer, Grace, was poised and unwavering. When she stood, she brought with her a calm that could cut through any pretense. "Your Honor," she began, "the claims presented by the defendant are not only misleading, they are built on deliberate deception. We have evidence that proves the truth." Daniel's smirk faltered slightly, just enough for me to see. He was used to controlling narratives, but this time the story was not his to shape. Grace presented spreadsheets, bank records, and documents that subtly hinted at the larger truth. She asked questions that exposed gaps in Daniel's fabricated story, but the full revelation was still to come. He tried to interrupt to maintain his image of innocence, but the courtroom had begun to shift. Observers murmured. Even his lawyer glanced nervously at the files Grace had laid out. The confident man who had demanded my fortune now felt the first stirrings of doubt. When the judge finally turned to me, I rose slowly. My heels clicked softly against the polished floor. I looked Daniel directly in the eyes and said calmly but firmly, "He didn't just try to take my money, Your Honor. He tried to take my life, my trust, my independence, and he did it thinking I would never notice, never fight back." The courtroom fell silent. Daniel's expression flickered between shock and disbelief. The first move had been mine, but the game was far from over. He didn't know that my silence had been the quiet gathering of proof, and when the time came, it would leave him speechless. When the judge finally addressed me, I stood calm and poised. Every step toward the bench felt deliberate, each heartbeat steady. Daniel watched, confidence still lingering in his posture. unaware that his world was about to unravel. "I have evidence that will clarify this case, Your Honor." I began, my voice measured. "Documents signed and verified by Mr. Lawson himself, proving that the assets he claims were his are, in fact, legally mine." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Daniel's lawyer stiffened. Daniel's smug expression faltered. He opened his mouth, but I continued without hesitation. Grace handed the judge a folder containing notarized documents showing that Daniel had transferred ownership of his own companies and properties into my name years ago, supposedly for tax purposes. The proof was undeniable. His signature, dates, and official stamps all lined up. But that wasn't all. I played a recording of his own voice confessing his plan to a friend. "Once she's done, I'll take everything. She'll never see it coming." The words echoed, sharp and cruel, filling the courtroom with undeniable truth. The judge's eyes widened. The color drained from Daniel's face. He swallowed hard, scrambling for words that would not come. His lawyer glanced helplessly at the papers, then at Daniel, realizing the case was slipping beyond repair. I looked at him steadily, my voice calm but cutting. "You wanted half my fortune, Daniel, but in your greed you signed it all away. Every asset, every property, every account legally mine. And everything you tried to hide only proves your deception." Daniel's jaw tightened. He whispered something to his lawyer, but the courtroom was silent except for the soft shuffle of papers. The man who had once demanded, manipulated, and schemed was now powerless. The judge leaned back, pale and silent for a moment, then spoke. "Mr. Lawson, these documents are valid, unless you have evidence of coercion, which by your own lawyer's admissions you do not. This court recognizes the transfers as legal. Your claims are dismissed." Daniel tried again to speak, but no words came. The arrogance that had carried him for years had evaporated in a moment. I gathered my papers calmly, looking at him one last time. "You underestimated me, Daniel," I said softly. "You forgot who built everything with her own hands, and now everything you tried to steal has already slipped beyond your reach." For the first time in years, he was silent. In this time, I wasn't the one at a loss for words. The courtroom emptied slowly, the echoes of my final words lingering in the polished air. Daniel sat frozen, his shoulders slumped, eyes wide with disbelief. The man who had demanded my fortune, who had plotted in shadows and whispered lies, could not speak. His lawyer stared at the papers, defeated. I walked past him without a glance. Justice had already spoken. Outside, the winter air was sharp against my cheeks, but it felt like freedom. For the first time in years, I breathed without the weight of betrayal pressing on my chest. My mind replayed the courtroom scene not with bitterness, but with clarity. Every late-night audit, every suspicious transfer, every careful record I had kept had led to this moment. Daniel had underestimated me. He believed arrogance and charm could rewrite reality. Instead, his own schemes had become the evidence that destroyed him. He had tried to take my life, my work, my peace, but he failed, and now he had nothing. Weeks later, I received news that his business dealings were under investigation. His reputation crumbled as quickly as his confidence had in the courtroom. I didn't revel in his downfall. I simply let it happen. Revenge, I realized, isn't about cruelty. It's about reclaiming what's yours. I poured my energy into something lasting. I purchased the penthouse Daniel had once promised we would share, transforming it into the Mox Foundation, a sanctuary for women rebuilding after betrayal. Legal aid, counseling, mentorship for independent careers. Every corner of the space spoke of strength, resilience, and empowerment. When the foundation opened, surrounded by women whose stories mirrored my own, I felt a warmth I hadn't known in years. Tears came not of sorrow, but of release. The woman who had once trembled in fear now stood tall, radiant, and free. People often ask if revenge is sweet. Mine wasn't in seeing Daniel fail. It was in rising above him. Peace, dignity, and purpose are far more satisfying than any fortune or victory won through anger. And as I gazed out from the penthouse, the city lights sparkling below, I smiled quietly. Daniel had been silenced, the judge had been stunned, and I had reclaimed my life, not just my wealth but my freedom, my strength, and my voice. For the first time in a decade I was truly unshackled. And that I realized was the sweetest revenge of